The best part about Super Bowl Sunday isn't actually the football, it's the food.
Hold on, Nick. Pump the brakes.
Tom, we're gonna have to agree to disagree on this one. And I know you don't typically get to sit down for a Super Bowl feast, but if you did and it was a big cheat day, what would be on the list?
Wings, pizza, nachos,
Okay.
buffalo chicken dip, pigs in a blanket, maybe some guac, maybe even a nice chili. Time to get cooking, Nick. Get to work.
I stand by what I said. I'll take food over football any day. We're gonna start by making buffalo wings, then work our way through some simple and delicious recipes, ultimately finishing with jalapeno poppers. One of my personal favorites that Tom forgot to mention. Oh, before I start, go subscribe so we can catch Gordon. Tom subscribed, so you should too. To start our buffalo wings, we'll start with 3 pounds of wingettes and drumettes. I've always preferred drums over flats, but you can argue in the comments below. And then we'll cover these with equal parts buttermilk, which not only gives flavor, but breaks down the protein in those wings to make them more tender. And pickle juice, which will give us even more flavor. I'll stir this up and then let these sit while we make our buffalo sauce. As for the buffalo sauce, we'll be taking the recipe straight out of my new cookbook. I mean, tell me that doesn't look good. For our buffalo sauce, we'll start by measuring out 2/3 cup of hot sauce. You can use whatever kind you like. We'll follow this with 1.5 tablespoons of white vinegar, 1/4 teaspoon of Worcestershire. Damn it. 1/4 teaspoon of Worcestershire. Can someone help me pronounce this?
Worcestershire sauce. Worcestershire sauce. Worcestershire.
Then gently stir over medium heat until the mixture begins to bubble. Immediately transfer it into a blender, and then with the blender turned up to medium speed, slowly add in 1/2 cup of cold cubed butter. Pour your buffalo sauce into a heat-proof bowl. It's like such a nice thick emulsion. Ooh. And to finish, season with a pinch of ground cayenne pepper, a touch of garlic powder, and last but not least, a little pinch of salt. Whisk it all up, give it one last taste, and set it aside. To finish the wings, toss them in a separate bowl, shaking off some of the excess buttermilk and pickle juice in the process. And once you've transferred them, pour over a light dusting of potato starch, then another light dusting of all-purpose flour. If you don't have potato starch, you can feel free to use only all-purpose flour. It just makes them a bit crispier. And finish with a tablespoon of baking powder and a few seasonings of your choice. Don't forget a sprinkle of salt. This right here is the lazy way to make wings. Normally you'd have a series of separate bowls to dredge the wings, but I find this to be much faster and it works just as well. Once the oil's resting a bit above 350 Fahrenheit, drop in those wings. If you like, you can also bake them at 450 Fahrenheit on a baking sheet for about 25 minutes, then flip them and cook them the rest of the way through for another 25 minutes on the other side. For now, we'll let these go for about 5 to 7 minutes. Once your wings are nice and golden brown and crispy, transfer them to a resting rack so we can drip off all that excess oil. Look at that crispiness, Manny. I know you'd eat that.
I will.
Then immediately hit them with a nice pinch of salt. Before you coat your wings in buffalo sauce, take a moment to admire the crisp. To finish, toss your wings into a bowl. Listen to that crunch. I gotta test one real quick. Way better than football. Then coat them in as much of your homemade buffalo sauce as you like, and make sure to give them a nice toss. These wings aren't gonna last more than just a few minutes coming out of your kitchen. Serve them with buffalo sauce, ranch, or whatever your heart desires. We'll move on now to our buffalo chicken dip. This recipe will also use our homemade buffalo sauce, but to start we need 2 cups of shredded chicken meat, which I'm gonna get from this rotisserie chicken. This right here is a quick and easy hack to shredding chicken fast. Once the chicken's shredded, add in a cup of shredded mozzarella cheese, 8 ounces of softened cream cheese, 3/4 cup buffalo sauce, and 1/2 cup ranch dressing. Mix this all up until well combined. Get out, you're fired. Add your dip to an oven-safe pan, then press it all out and top with another cup of shredded mozzarella cheese. Place this in the oven at 350 Fahrenheit for about 20 minutes. Once that buffalo chicken dip is nice and golden brown, go ahead and make sure to dive in immediately. That's the kind of cheese pull you gotta be looking for. It doesn't get any easier than this, and it most certainly doesn't get any tastier.
Oh, she'll do just fine.
Next up, there's nothing like a cast iron pan pizza on game day. Because these recipes are quick and easy, we're working with pre-made dough, which is nothing to be ashamed of. To begin, take that dough and lay it out on a floured work surface. For a standard pre-made dough, you'll probably get about 2 pizzas out of it. Start by working your dough and spreading it out so that it'll fit the bottom of your cast iron. It'll make your life a lot easier if your dough is already room temperature. Once your dough's rolled out, place a cast iron skillet over medium heat, then fill it with about 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil. Lay your dough into the cast iron, then let it cook just a few minutes, carefully lifting the edge every so often to check that it's getting golden brown. Once the bottom is golden brown, start by adding a nice layer of pizza sauce, spreading it evenly across the top, then go across with some shredded mozzarella cheese. You can certainly use pre-shredded if you like, but this is going to taste and melt better. And finish it off with the toppings of your choice. I'm just going to use a few slices of pepperoni. We'll place this into the oven at 500 degrees Fahrenheit, keeping an eye on it until the cheese is fully melted. And once that happens, turn it to a broil until the top is golden brown. This pizza right here is better and faster than anything you could order on delivery. And yes, it definitely out-pizzas the Hut.
Pizza the Hut, famed half man, half pizza, was found dead earlier today.
Next up, we'll make the easiest recipe of the day, pigs in a blanket. And all you'll need is 1 can of these crescent rolls and then 24 of these average-sized packaged hot dogs. In all seriousness though, make sure to get the little mini hot dogs. To begin, open up your dough. Oh, I like that. And then roll it flat on your cutting board. Separate them into their pre-cut triangles, then slice each one into 3 portions, trying to keep it as even as you possibly can. Now, at the base of each crescent roll, place down a wiener and roll it all the way up. It should look something like this. And once they're all laid out, simply bake them for 12 to 15 minutes at 375 Fahrenheit. And just a few minutes later, our pigs in a blanket are complete. They're bite-sized, fun and easy to make, and always a fan favorite. You can dip them in mustard, ketchup. What the Did you get that on camera? For the effort that goes into these pigs in a blanket, they are extremely juicy and delicious. And the best part is, you can eat them wherever you like.
I wanted to eat a pig in a blanket. In a blanket.
Speaking of chili, that's of course a Super Bowl classic. But I've already made it in this video here, and there's also a fantastic recipe in the cookbook. But we're gonna keep moving. Next up, we're making sheet pan nachos. They're nothing like those trash can nachos that Guy Fieri makes, which, as the name suggests, belong right in the trash. Start in a pan with 1 pound of ground beef, along with a pinch of salt and some optional minced garlic. Once the beef mixture is cooked, go ahead and add in 1 packet of taco seasoning, then stir to combine, draining off any excess fat, and set it aside. Pour a bag of tortilla chips into a single layer on a baking sheet, then top it evenly with your ground beef mixture, a can of drained and rinsed black beans, 1 can of corn, and some cheese. I like to use a nice mix of Monterey Jack, and then both white and yellow cheddar. Normally, I always say to grate your own cheese, but in this instance, we're whipping up a fast, messy, last-minute recipe. Now into the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit until the cheese is melted. Once the nachos are done, to finish I'll add some sour cream, splat it across all my nachos. Do this in whatever messy way you'd like. Then same thing with the salsa, splattered across the whole plate of nachos. I like doing it in this messy, rustic sort of way.
If I had a black light, the place would look like a Jackson Pollock painting.
And then to finish, break up a bunch of cilantro leaves and stems. The stems have more flavor than the leaves, so don't waste them. Then, if you like spicy, go ahead and toss on some jalapeno slices, and definitely stick around to see those jalapeno poppers we'll be making soon. Then go ahead and sprinkle across some Roma tomato, just to give some nice texture. Then some sliced red onion, and to finish, I like to use a microplane and give some nice lime zest across the entire plate of nachos. And that right there is a good looking tray of nachos. After all that hard work, we gotta try some of these. If you're gonna be eating nachos, you'd better make some guacamole to go with it. To start with our guac, we'll open up 3 ripe avocados. This right here is the method I use every time, and you should be doing the same. Just be careful when you go to whack out the pit. I will say though, it does make it a lot easier if your avocados are actually ripe. Then into a mortar, I'll scrape in my 3 avocados. This is more of a traditional way to do it, but you can certainly use a food processor or blender, or even just a bowl with a fork. And then I'll go ahead and mash these up until they've reached my desired consistency. So if you're looking for a chunky guacamole, make sure not to over mix your avocado. To finish, I'll mix in 1/2 of a diced small yellow onion, 2 diced Roma tomatoes, 3 tablespoons of finely chopped fresh cilantro, a little diced jalapeno if you want it spicy, 1 or 2 cloves of minced garlic, a little pinch of salt, and optionally, my secret ingredient, a tiny little splash of soy sauce. Don't forget to add a nice big squeeze of lime, and then mix it all up. Guacamole comes in all shapes and sizes, but I'll tell you right now, it doesn't get any better than this. Now for our last recipe of the day, the one thing Tom forgot to mention, bacon wrapped jalapeno poppers. Whenever I'm working with jalapenos, I always use gloves because I'm not trying to get jalapeno hands. To prep the jalapenos, remove the top, then slit them down one side, opening them up to peel out the seeds and the membrane. I used to be afraid of jalapenos until I realized that they're really not that spicy if you remove the insides. When I'm cutting something spicy like this or anything that's going to contaminate the cutting board, I like to use a separate cutting board that's going to be easier to rinse off. Hence the little mini cutting board we're using for this. And once we've cleaned 6 jalapenos, I'll go in with a 1/4 cup of cream cheese and a 1/4 cup of shredded cheddar cheese. Mix it up until well combined, then fill up your jalapenos just like this. And once they've all been filled, lay down a strip of bacon and then carefully wrap up your poppers. They should look something like this. Repeat this same process with your remaining jalapeno poppers. Bake these at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 25 to 35 minutes or until crispy.
Are they supposed to smell like that?
Oh, funny you should ask. You may be wondering why I had you cut off the tops of the jalapeno poppers, and here's why. When some of that cheese spills out, it caramelizes on the baking sheet as it cooks. So while most people will leave the tops on, I like to go ahead and then scoop all of that cheese off of my baking sheet and place it right back into the popper. That'll give us a unique, beautifully caramelized flavor when we go to eat this. What you've got right here is a cheesy, flavorful, and delicious jalapeno popper. Time for a bite. So good. If you learned something or enjoyed any of the food today, please go subscribe so we can catch Gordon.
Nick, can I get more jalapeno poppers?
No, go make them yourself.
But I like how you make them.
All right, get out of my house. You're fired.
All right.